Hi, my name is Kenna Chick. I am a recent graduate from Georgetown University with a minor in disability studies. I'm also a youth mental health advocate. One experience that really highlighted to me the lack of societal inclusion for disabled people was the lack of access to college mental health services. At my university, I have encountered a lot of students who were only able to access mental health services for 1 to 2 semesters before ultimately being referred off campus. Off campus, the difficulties really lie in transportation, but also the cost of going off campus to services in the DC area, which range from $100 to $300 for many students. I knew so many students who ended up stopping their services essentially because they were no longer able to afford them. It is extremely disruptive toward their education and towards their life goals when students are pushed off campus for the main purpose of having a psychiatric disability and not being able to address it while they're on campus because the university themselves does not have the resources to do so. If I if I could pick one aspect to change, it really would be to ensure that students have access to mental health services. As we know, a lot of people go to universities in order to break out of cycles of poverty. And when we talk about poverty, especially in the disability community, oftentimes a lot of people are forced to be impoverished in order to, say, access services that they need, specifically as it relates to Medicaid. At the same time, when students are referred off campus, when students are pushed out, when students are forced to drop out and not receive the education that they need and that they want, they're unable to then carry on to future goals. They're unable to have the dream job that they've always wanted or to have some of the opportunities that they might have had otherwise. As such, it is so important for education and educational institutions to ensure that students who are disabled are able to be successful on their campus. And that starts by offering them the resources they need and meeting them where they are instead of expecting them to fit into a box. My call to action, and I really do think that if there's one thing that as a disabled community we can do now is really ensure that educators and administrators are aware that psychiatric disabilities fall into disabilities. Anyone who works with the ADA obviously knows that psychiatric disabled people are under the ADA and do qualify for accommodations. However, there is so much misinformation when it comes to what students can access and what they can't, especially as they're students with psychiatric disabilities. Adding into the stigma compartment, a lot of students then feel uncomfortable even asking these questions in the first place, and many are left without the support that they need. In short, I hope that students with psychiatric disabilities and people with psychiatric disabilities in general are able to eventually live a life where they can reach their goals, where they won't be judged by their disability, and where they don't feel like they have to hide who they are and their experiences in order to reach their goals in life.